Hello there. So, just over a year ago now, a number of white Nexts were sent out to members of the Next team as a thank you for all their years of hard work on getting the Next to where it is now. And I never actually opened mine, and here it is. So, I guess familiarity breeds contempt, and spending so long working on something, it can become rather annoying and even get you to the point where you kind of hate everything about it. And so when I got this, I just wasn't interested in it at all. So yeah, it's unopened. And I thought, well, why not open it now? It's my birthday today, after all. So I have here a sharp instrument. The wording on here was more of a joke than a warning because we knew the packaging could easily be opened with a sharp instrument because there's so much depth. You've got the card underneath here, then you've got a gap until you get to the case, you've got all the foam here and such. So this was an idea from our manufacturer, and it was Dave who we dealt with on all manufacturing fronts apart from the keyboard. And we never really knew what we could do, and in the first Kickstarter we couldn't do an awful lot because whenever we asked for things it always cost a lot of money and we didn't have the money. The difference this time around is that Dave would suggest things and we'd say how much, and he might say, oh, you know, it's a few pence per box, or it won't cost anything extra. And that was kind of the difference between Kickstarter 1 and Kickstarter 2. Obviously moving production to China, but also the fact that Dave came out with a whole load of great ideas on how to improve the product. And one of the things was this R-tape cutting error, which obviously every Spectrum fan from back in the day knows when they were trying to load stuff. So in joke, using an approximation of the Spectrum font and also some graphics on the side here. These white Nexts that went out were plus models, and they have down the side the initials of the person that they're going to, and on the boards as well their names are laser etched onto the boards to make it personal. Now I'm going to open this now, as I say, for the first time. This isn't a very sharp instrument, by the way, you can probably tell. I should probably have used a big ass knife, because it's not really. But once again, a bit little. And of course, with writing this on the boxes suddenly became valuable, or at least inseparable from the product that is contained within. So realistically, you know, if you were selling one of these, people will probably want the original shipping box as well. And there was some disappointment at times because sometimes the shipping boxes would get significant damage in transit, and you know, people would be asking, you know, can you send us a new shipping box? But of course, the purpose of the shipping box is to protect what's inside, not necessarily to survive 100% intact. So there you go. Okay. Beautiful. And here we have it. You can see, that's me. See if I can get this out from this angle. Get this box out of the way. So the packaging is a lot better than for Kickstarter 1. We basically ran out of money. Couldn't even afford to bubble wrap the units as they went into the box, so they were kind of rattling around in there. And as people probably remember, the internals, the cardboard bits to try and keep things in were too weak. The manual being really heavy would push things around and things would get damaged. And really, our manufacturer again came up trumps. They effectively defined the packaging. We just signed it off. They prescribed a minimum thickness of the polystyrene. Is it not polystyrene? Is it? It's foam? What am I talking about? So they prescribed a minimum thickness of the foam, and obviously we didn't want the boxes to be too big. We'd already reduced the height of the next box compared to Kickstarter 1, and again that was their suggestion, because we had this lid which didn't meet the bottom of the tray, and that was an artistic choice by the people who did the box the first time around. And obviously this time around it's probably the perfect height, and being red was to reflect the I guess the 1 to 8K spectrum, but also to move along this line of colours here. And I'm not sure whether the next Kickstarter 3 will be magenta and the next one green. I don't know. It has to look right in the first place. So here we go. Another thing that we didn't get on Kickstarter 1 is the fact that every unit is shrink wrapped. So again, keeping things in much better condition. The artwork on the back is something I chose, so I take responsibility for things that aren't there and things that are there. There was a last minute change to the artwork, 11th hour type stuff, because we originally had a game on there called Marsmer, which was a Kickstarter that happened a few years ago now, I think. So Marsmer was on here. However, given the issues with Kickstarter 1 and the games that were printed on the back of the box and the stretch goals failing to meet a lot of those stretch goals, it was decided not to include Marsmer because it had run into issues and we weren't sure if it was going to be delivered. And then the people behind TX1696 reached out, and that was a much more advanced piece of software. There were demos of it out there, and there was a much stronger feeling from myself that yes, that game is going to be delivered. So TX1696 replaced Marsmer on the back of the box. I still have a next box which has Marsmer in place of TX, and only 2 of those were ever made. So you know, it's quite a rare thing. You know, these misprints or these prototype boxes that I have somewhere in the loft. You'll probably notice that there's a common theme between the Kickstarter 1 and 2 boxes, and really all I did was I went through the wording and just tidied things up a bit. I also worked with Richard Hallis because his grammar is far superior to mine, and so a lot of this here and a lot of these things were also went through Richard Hallis, and he provided a lot of comments and feedback until we arrived at what we have here now. The presence of Nextdoor. I really wanted to get something that was different, not having it all games on the back of the box. And Nextdoor is one of my favourite pieces of software. I love it. So, and you know, it could make quite a nice colourful screenshot, whereas maybe other applications aren't so pretty to look at. And so made the decision to put Nextdoor on there as the only non-game. And this also meant that we had to change this enhanced, I can't remember where it said originally on Kickstarter 1, exclusive games or something like that, and obviously we couldn't put games there anymore, so you know, deciding enhanced software was the way to go. And also, of course, this here, copyright and such changed, and we also couldn't have Made in Creative UK anymore as we did for Kickstarter 1, because the majority of this was manufactured in China. But obviously we have the CA and UKCA marks, CE and UKCA marks on there, which is different. Alfredo Tato, the legend, the man who gave up his time to design all of the graphics in here, and never once got annoyed with the numerous changes I asked him for all throughout the process. We were tweaking things, and there's a lot that goes into this. I can't really talk too much about it, but you know, there are rules in this kind of layout in terms of how things align, and you know, how many screenshots we could fit in, because there were only 8 in Kickstarter 1, and I wanted to increase it for Kickstarter 2, and I would have liked to have gone more, but having another 2 here would have thrown all these alignments out and it just wouldn't have looked right. The other thing that was changed on the box artwork was the number of times that Spectrum Next is actually printed around the sides of the box. And I think it was Richard Hallis again who observed that when this was on the shelf with all the other Spectrum models, perhaps it didn't actually say Spectrum Next. I think maybe there was a side, I can't remember. I should have got the Kickstarter 1 box out as well. There was a side of it where it didn't actually have anything written on, so one of the things I said to Alfredo was, can we have ZX Spectrum Next on every side here as well? And the hero graphic, I guess you'd call it, is also new for Kickstarter 2. There were a couple of reasons for that. One, I wanted to be able to render it in-house, in inverted commas, because previously Phil Candy, our industrial designer, rendered them with Keyshot. In the original render on Kickstarter 1, this LED is blue and I wanted it to be red, and I just wanted to have more creative control and a more direct interface into someone like Alfredo, so that we could tweak and tune and hone. You know, he could just effectively rotate and place the lights because he's really good at that kind of thing in the 3D world. So he took the original 3D render and he spent a long time fixing it, because I think he used a different piece of software, and so the mesh didn't come in quite as nicely as it could have done. And then when he was rendering it as well, certain graphics were slightly wrong, or there was clipping, so he had to go in and do a lot of fixing to get it to where it is now. And then he picked a similar angle to the Kickstarter 1 box and did a render, and I think it's really nice. We still have the Powered by TB Blue on there, because that was the original board. And now is the really sad part, because I'm going to be undoing this beautiful shrink wrap gently, trying not to damage it. So yeah, a year ago, or just over a year ago, this arrived. I think everyone else opened theirs up pretty much straight away, apart from Alfredo, who waited till the 6th, because where he lives, I think he's around in Mexico, there's some thing about giving presents on the 6th of January, so he held his for that. But I think everyone else has shown this, so this is kind of old news, but I can't even get this thing off. I'm trying to be really gentle with it. So yeah, finally has a breath of free air. Come on. Need to grow my nails a bit. Let's let you on. It's funny how different lights kind of bring out different colours in this, because it looks kind of browny here, but it's not really. And as does that. We went through a number of shades of red, because the 128 box is really bright red, and it just, I don't think it ever looked quite right, being so vibrant. And so we kind of darkened it a few shades until we got to this one, and this looked kind of right. Again, we have the UV layer coating in various places on here, on Sinclair, and on the screenshots on the back. So this is it. This is me opening this up for the first time ever. Hope there's a white next in here. This is also what was specified when we were discussing the box design, is that it should have that kind of lift up the lid and wait and let the thing slowly slide out. And then new for the Kickstarter 2, we have this, which is supposed to go kind of around the keyboard to help protect things, keep things in place. So yeah, let's just straighten this out a bit. And there it is, my white Next. Thing of beauty. At least I'm hoping it is. And of course these are Plus models, because we ordered several thousand Raspberry Pi Zeros and they were very difficult to get hold of. So we could only get enough to cover the Kickstarter 2. So we didn't have enough for this run here. And so they were made Plus. So yes, you can add your own, but it means you do get the nice white blanking plate as well as part of the deal. Beautiful. I've never really properly, looked and held one of these before, because I know a couple went to Crash. Well, last year one went to Crash. That's probably the first time I've really looked at one. Yeah, beautiful. And this foam was the highest quality foam we could get, going from kind of the various grades of foam. You have this stuff for the packaging, which is like the really cheap stuff you get. A lot of kind of stuff you buy from Amazon, maybe. I've seen a lot of camera stuff, cheap camera stuff that is, packed in this kind of thing. And then this one is much finer, much nicer texture, much denser and much more expensive as well. So here we have the same quick start. If I can get the thing out. Well, not pulling that out. I was trying to pull the manual out there by the front page. Usual quick start. Usual manual. Not sure how this is meant to come out. I guess you just have to do that, yeah. Lovely manual. We went matte for this one, just to make it a bit different. And there's kind of a UV around the lettering on ZX Spectrum Next, and the user manual, and Sinclair as well as a UV. And there is colour here. Probably like to see a bit more for Kickstarter 3. The colour's there, but it's not as full on as like the Spectrum Plus manual and the 128 manual. Very small though that they are. They're kind of full colour. And yeah, maybe the actual dimensions could be larger in future, because I can't read the registers. I need to take photos of every page, I think, to be able to read that. The writing is quite small. I'm 51 today, so yeah, the eyesight doesn't get any better. Still don't wear glasses though. Yes, that's a really nice, sturdy construction there. The manual sits right at the bottom of the box. And then we have the accessories box as well, of course, which is just the power stuff. And there were a number of iterations we went through, from very cheap to very expensive, but very expensive in this case was not dissimilar to the cost of Kickstarter 1. We could just do a lot more. And of course the accessories are in white, which was a very nice touch. Previously this was just like a piece of foam and these bits were just shoved into it, and it didn't look good. So I made a decision to look at enclosing it all in a nice box, better than the Kickstarter 1 box, which was just like a flimsy card. And then Dave of course said, why don't we write something on it? And this has presented an issue for some people, because in some cases this writing is not level, and that was really annoying. So we're really going to have to catch that kind of thing, assuming we're going to do, or they're going to do the same thing for Kickstarter 3, if there is a Kickstarter 3. So yeah, keeps everything neat. Okay. Now, the next thing is going to be to open it up and to prove that my name is written on the board. I'm not saying it's not, but you have to look, don't you? I think I've got the wrong size of screwdriver bit here. Silly me. Feels terrible opening something up, doesn't it, when you've only just opened the box and you've never actually fired the thing up. The first thing you do is take it apart. And of course, to get at the board, I have to unscrew the board from the upper. So yeah, we didn't get white screws for the white one, but I thought the black looked good. Okay. There's the lower in all its glory. And then the white board, that was a must. I didn't want to be accused of copying off the Engo, but a white case, it had to be a white board. This comes out a lot easier now than it did on the Kickstarter 1. The I-beam in here is now the correct size, effectively, whereas on the Kickstarter 1, our manufacturer had, without telling us, changed the dimensions of it, which meant that it was such a tight fit in the slot that you could barely get it out. I really need a different size. Yes, I do. No. very tight. Okay, so obviously we're going to have the ribbon cables under here, and then this board here is attached to this board. So probably best taking out the SD card. I seem to recall for Kickstarter 1, these two screws were the same. They just look a bit different. Might just be me actually. I'm not sure if they went with something slightly smaller, shorter. Okay. And here we go. Beautiful thing. Special edition as well, written down there. I can't remember if the non-signed ones or not the non-customized ones have special edition. I can't remember. Does look nice in white though, doesn't it? It looks very sparse. But obviously that's just because, you know, the memory used to be 4 chips and now it's just that, you know, that is your 2 meg. The FPGA as well, when you look at it, just looks tiny. Yeah. Sorry if I'm just staring at this in silence. I'm just marvelling at it. Some of those components are so small on it, you can't even tell what they are. And I think the white as well just makes things disappear into it. So yeah, that is my white next. I might just fire it up actually and make sure it works. Yeah. Very nice, very nice. Let's get those flex tails back in. Okay. Those ports lined up. And the holy holes. Okay, so they click in a little bit. These, yeah, gotta make sure these little buttons line up with the just trying to find the click, as these are self-tappers. Yeah, I think my screw bit's a bit of an ill fit. I should be using this one actually, I think. Let's just try it. Yeah. Yeah, it's a real tight fit, this. Try not to damage the screws, but I've got loads more of these actually. And that way. Beautiful. No, we don't over tighten these. They are threaded inserts. They are heat pressed though, so they shouldn't fail, but you know, if a threaded insert fails, you do have problems. Shaky hands, shaky hands. That slides in so nicely. And there we go. I suppose I could try and fire it up, but I just can't remember what cables are for what here on my desk at the moment. I'll probably have to unplug this thing here. I've not got much length on this cable at the moment, so let's see what happens. And can I get the power? Power from this next into this next, and then switch it on. There we go. So there we go, still on the old version, needs to be upgraded. I'll do that at some point. And yeah. So if you're lucky enough to get one, congratulations. I'm hoping that there won't be any more made, and I know that might be disappointing to some people, but special edition is a special edition, and if we suddenly made thousands of them, it wouldn't be special anymore. But that's not to say that something else won't be tried and some other colour may be attempted. Hell, you may even see, you know, an attempt on a transparent one. You just never know, do you? So hopefully no more whites, but maybe something to whet your appetite, or something that will interest you. So yeah, switch that off. the White Next. Cheers.